Albion Online patch number 11 is finally live, and there are a couple of things that has been nerfed, and there are some things that were buffed. So in this video, we are going to look into the reasons why Albion Online or SBI actually nerfed and buffed specific items in the game. We're going to look at the entire patch notes, and I want to know your reaction to this. This is Beyond the Veil patch number 11. It was live yesterday, and this is probably one of the most hated patch notes I've ever seen. Like, a lot of players are complaining about one single thing, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. This is the first thing that I saw in the patch. This is the removed default box around the off-screen name tags. And now it only shows when you hover your mouse over or when the target is selected. This was one of the minor complaints that a lot of players had, where when you are surrounded, especially like a ZVZ situation, when you are surrounded by players off screen, you are going to see a lot of those boxes, and it can really be distracting. Now, there is only that name similar to how it was in the past, but now you can still click it when you hover your mouse over. Okay, off-screen name tags now always have some transparency as well. Some issues. This is a big issue for me, actually. I have definitely lost a lot of kills in the mist because of this. A frequent issue where right-clicking a name tag selected player. Now, when you right-click on the name tag of a player, it actually stops you from moving. Instead of you moving towards the direction, the game takes it as you clicked on that name tag, so you're not moving anymore. I've definitely lost a lot of kills just because of that, but now it's already fixed. That's really good. And also some changes for the thingy. Okay, so the combat balance changes. The longest time I've been playing Albion Online, this is a patch where a lot of players seems to be very vocal when it comes to voicing out how they're displeased with some of the changes. Okay, for the first one, or for the general one, combat balance changes. This patch notes improves less frequently used abilities and tone down some abilities that are frustrating to play against or too dominant in specific content types. Also contains various quality of life improvements. For the arcane staff, we talked about this in the past. To increase the value of the arcane orb effect, it now purges before the silence. This change makes sure that purging effect removes silence immunity buffs on the target before silencing. So basically, it will make it so that you get purge and you also get silence. That's actually a very significant part of this update. Because of the Void's Cleanse logic rework in patch 10 caused unintended side effects with other spells, it is reverted for now. Okay, so the Arcane Orb now purges before silences, and this Void, the Malevolent Locus, reverted Cleanse logic reworked in patch 10's CC effects and debuffs are no longer instantly removed, but cleanse in a fixed tick interval. I don't know how that important it is to you, but not really to me. For the bows, the regular bows, have been the meta for Stalker and Slayer Corrupted Dungeons for the longest time now. Ever since they buffed, actually, the bow, it's been in the meta. It's been top 1, top 2, switching between top 1 and top 2 alongside the dual sword. The Enchanted Quiver has been very powerful in various solo activities. To give other weapons a better chance to defend against it, the damage output is toned down a bit. Very, very minor. The projectile size of the magic arrow is slightly increased to bring it more in line with other abilities. So the Enchanted Quiver, the E ability of the bow, attack damage increase, which is the buff, is now from 240 to 220. Not a big change. 20% is pretty much nothing, to be honest with you. And Magical Arrow from the Warbrow projectile hitbox increased ever so slightly. The crossbows are getting some buffs to give crossbows more consistent damage output in PvP. The projectile speed is increased and the stand time of the ability has been reduced. The siege bow is very popular in large-scale fights. It is often used by multiple users at the same time. To reduce the efficiency of using multiple siege bows, the damage percentage is now based on the remaining health of the target. This keeps the Alpha Strike of the first siege bow deadly, but using multiple siege bows at the same time now diminishes each other's damage output somewhat. This is actually a very good change. Now, for all of the crossbows, as they said, the stand time is now from 0.3 to 0.2. The projectile speed has been increased significantly, actually, from 30 meters per second to 40 meters per second. And along with the siege bow, instead of it dealing damage based on max health, now deals damage based on current health, making it so that bringing multiple siege bows no longer works as effectively as in the past. And for the mace, the heavy mace have been extensively used in 5v5 crystals and are especially dominant in cross map and are often used in large-scale battles in the open world. To bring them more in line with other attack weapons, the cooldown has been increased. That increase is from 15 seconds to 18 seconds. Not really a big change. I still think the heavy mace is going to be one of the best when it comes to 5v5 and small-scale fights, just because you can pretty much counter this change by adding like a pork omelet, adding one more tier for the pork omelet, getting like cooldowns, blah blah blah. 15 to 18, not really that significant. Still expect the heavy maces to be one of the best in terms of like 5v5 crystals. Additionally, the battle howl now purges before the silences. So this is similar to how the arcane orb now functions. Now it can purge, then silence. Okay. Swords. This is the thing that I have been waiting for. Like, why did they actually nerf the Iron Will? They're nerfing the Iron Will from the energy cost of 9 flat to 10% of max energy. Iron Will's effect did not scale with item power, but its energy cost did. In order to prevent this, the energy cost is now percentage based. Did not really give us a lot of insight to it, but now Iron Will is now 10% of max energy. I don't really know why they did this. Although they say did not scale with item power, Iron Will has never been like the go-to W in most contents anyways, but hey, it's now been nerfed. Parry Strike. Although Parry Strike has a lot of outplay potential, the ability is not used very often. To make it more attractive, the cooldown is slightly reduced so it can be used more frequently in fights. Again, ever so slightly. The Parry Strike from 18 seconds to 16 seconds. This is more of a... It's actually a more significant buff compared to like this kinds of nerf. When you go down in terms of cooldown and you use like cooldown reduction food, it adds to that as well. So it's only 16 seconds base instead of 18 seconds. I'm actually very curious how other sword players are going to feel about this, because 16 seconds cooldown, Parry Strike doesn't give you a lot of direct damage. Although if you can parry one of like the biggest damages from your opponent, it definitely will hurt. But I kind of want to know if you guys are going to use Parry Strike to those sword users instead of like the splitting slash or interrupt in 2v2 Hellgates, if that's like more appealing to you. Quarterstaffs. The quarterstaffs, with the recent rework of the Brazilian capes, it is intended to give players a tool that can reliably break shields in large-scale battles. To achieve this, the shield break is added to the Black Monk staff. To not overload the ability, the slow is now removed. So for the Fatal Blade for the Black Monk staff, they remove the slow, but it breaks the shield every time it deals damage, and it deals damage every 0.75 seconds. Okay, spears. Spears, to improve the reliability of spears in PvP fights, Impaler is now easier to hit. Impaler, if they don't know, is the one that just pokes you from the ground and slows you and deals damage. Impaler in all spears now have a hit delay from 0.4 to 0.3 and a stand time of 0.8 to 0.65. Not a big buff. It's more of like a balancing, making it so that players now may want to use Impaler instead of other skills. Additionally, the hitbox of the spear throw, the Heron Spear, is fixed, making it less likely to hit targets directly behind the caster. So they just fixed it. They make it so that it functions well. All right, here we go. What does it mean? It breaks shields. So you know you have shields for Guardian Helmet, you have shield for Knight Boots, you have shield for the Brazilian cape. It just breaks that. It pretty much cancels all of the shield. Something like that. Face breaker? No. That's the difference. That's different. The shield is the shield that's, yeah, those kinds of shield. Yep. All right. This is one of the most, I would say, controversial, but deservedly so. The Hunter Hood is getting nerfed, and it already is nerfed. So, Retaliate is one of the most used helmet abilities in solo fights, especially in Stalker Corrupted Dungeons. Having most 1v1 fights revolve around one helmet greatly reduces the diversity in builds and matchup. That is so true. If you looked at the Murder Ledger for months and months now, it's pretty much all Hunter Hoods because it's just too good. In the previous patch, they nerfed it from 100% reflect to 85% reflect, and now to reduce the impact of the helmet in this content, the duration of Retaliate buff is reduced. Now, the Retaliate from the Hunter Hood is now from 4 seconds defense, 4 seconds duration, now down to 3 seconds. Now, I've tried this, and it is actually still a viable option, at least for the content that I do. I do Mist content, and I do Corrupted Dungeons, Stalker Corrupted Dungeons, and it is actually still viable. The 1 second I thought was going to just destroy the Retaliate. Not really. It's still good because you can reflect 85% of the damage, although you just have to be aware that it is 1 second less than it used to be. To further improve the variety in helmets, the underused block from the soldier helmet and the stone skin in all plate helmets are buffed as well. So this block on the soldier helmet increased channel duration from 1.75 to 2.5 seconds. This gives you 2.5 seconds of complete immunity, pretty much. You're immune to damage and immune to CC. I don't believe this can be purged as well because it's a channel duration. You're pretty much invulnerable for 2.5 seconds. Plus, you can also walk. There you go. For the stone skin, all plate helmets, the cooldown is from 45 seconds to 30 seconds, but they did reduce the buff duration from 7 seconds to 4 seconds. If you don't know, stone skin increases your defense by 33.33%, I believe. So that's a very good defense there, actually. The armors. This is the one that almost everyone who does solo static PvP, everyone who does solo static PvE, who does solo group dungeons in the blue zone and yellow zone, they absolutely hate this. And understandably so. Lifesteal Aura has been used frequently in Mist's PvP fights to instantly heal up using mobs. To reduce the effectiveness of this strategy, the lifesteal against mob is reduced. Now, if you're looking at a player who uses this Hellion jacket in the Mist PvP, this makes sense. Absolutely makes sense because it's just too powerful. You run through a mob camp from 20% health, you come out, you have 100% health. Now, the main complaints of a lot of players, specifically those players that I mentioned who does like solo group dungeon, is that Hellion jacket is the best when it comes to heal yourself when you're doing solo group dungeon. Because group dungeons are meant to be done by groups, but they found a way to bring high tier equipment solo and clear the dungeon solo, which was meant to be cleared by a group. Now, they are understandably pissed because they have been nerfed when they, in their minds, they're not doing anything overpowered. They're just using the Hellion jacket as it's intended. Now that the Hellion jacket has been nerfed basically for PvE, they will have to find a way to actually replace the heals coming from the Hellion jacket and find a better way to clear group dungeon solo. And understandably so, and this is where I want to touch on how SBI's Albion Online is never, ever, ever going to be balanced for everyone. Just because of this. Look at this. The lifesteal aura has been used frequently in missed PvP fights, and they nerfed it because of that. But other groups have been affected as well. There are just way too many instances in the game that you can never truly balance Albion Online. One change will affect one instance, and it will also affect another instance that is completely unrelated. Best example is the Hellion jacket. Now, it is perfectly balanced now in the missed PvP, but look at the PvE side. They're just absolutely pissed because they just got nerfed to the ground, and they're not even mentioned in the patch notes that they're too powerful in PvE, and they're just reduced to ashes basically. I think they should make respec free for nerfed items for like 2 weeks. That is an interesting concept. That's a very interesting concept. Shoes. They have the shoes. The Crush Charge has been popular in a wide variety of content. Its cooldown is increased to open up space for other offensive boots. Oh, really? It has been used in a lot of content? I was not aware. The cooldown is from 20 seconds to 25 seconds. The dodge was underplayed for quite some time, so its cooldown is decreased to match other available iframe boots options. The dodge against one-hand curse is the best option out there. If you can switch to a dodge ability and any of your boots, you can pretty much counter a one-hand curse staff pretty easily as long as you time your dodge abilities. This pretty much like kills the one-hand curse, honestly, but it also gives you less cooldown now on all of your boots on the dodge ability. Very good for everyone except for one-hand curse users. The energetic sprint energy value was decreased. Wait, the energetic sprint energy values are decreased, reducing the possibility of solving all energy shortages solely through this ability. In the mist, you are going to see a lot of cloth sandals on rejuvenating sprints. On energetic sprints. And honestly, yeah, with death givers, daggers, and all of that, all of those mana hungry builds, they literally just have to use any cloth sandals, and they pretty much have unlimited energy as long as they manage their cooldowns properly. But just one skill from a common cloth sandal, not even like a specific skill of a cloth sandal, it's just a generic skill of a cloth sandal, pretty much solves everything. The total energy now is from 20 to 16 base, and at the same time, rejuvenating sprint has been overplayed in most small scale contents, even in like 1v1. If you look at the Murder Ledger, it's always going to be like Hunter Hood, Plate Boots, Hunter Hood, Plate Boots. Now to allow other options to be played, the effectiveness of the heal is reduced quite significantly actually. It now heals for 72. Oh no, it healed for 72. Now it only heals for 57.6. And I tried this earlier in Soccer Corrupted Dungeons. It is actually very significant. It is 100% significant. They could have added a flag to group dungeons where they need to 2-3 people. Oh, that's true. Make it so that... Wait, how about like dungeon divers though? Dungeon divers, like solo dungeon divers, may not like that. There's a game where it looks like this. Hearthstone. When a card is nerfed, the scrap becomes 100% for that card for a time. Ah, interesting. That's very interesting. I guess in Albion Online, since you can respec, and it is a silver sync, but I don't really recommend respecking. It is a silver sync, so I guess it's a win-win situation for them as well. Do you think that should solve it, Tank? Moving on though, for now, battle mount abilities. This has been like a very troll. So the Roving Bastion, if you have seen or if you have played Albion Online for the past couple of months, you have seen a video of Roving Bastions just crystal beaming a poor guy in the red zone, just destroying the crap out of it. with like just crystal beams. Recently, players started stacking multiple roving bastions to roam the open world because they provide a safe way to deal significant damage in high numbers. To make it less attractive to stack multiple bastions, the damage significantly reduced and more value is put into the stackable debuff. They basically just destroyed that content where a bunch of bastions just crystal beams you and dismounts you and just grieves you. Now, the damage reduction debuff increased to 15% from 12%. The damage has been nerfed to the ground from 120 to 24. So it's basically dead, that crystal beam, multiple bastions. Some quality of life changes. The cooldown on spell changes is reduced, allowing faster spell selections when reacting to opponents. However, changing equipment still triggers a 10-second cooldown because we don't want to increase the advantage of carrying multiple sets in the open world too much. Players with one set of items shouldn't be at a big disadvantage. This is a very good change. Now, when you change your spells, just like this one, right? If you change your spells to this, it now only is 5 seconds. But if you change your items to this, it still gives you that 10-second cooldown. I think a very good change overall. And it's now easier to just swap and not have that 10 seconds cooldown, which is really annoying, especially like 2v2. In 2v2 arenas, in 2v2 Hellgates, when you're swapping skills and you have that 10 seconds cooldown, it can be really, really annoying. Item cooldown should be less in arena. What's how much less do you think it is? Suntoan na pare. Alright, this is also a significant thing to prevent players from unintentionally canceling their own channel skills and toggle in the heat of battle when you're just spamming buttons. The minimum duration before these can be cancelled by pressing the ability button again is slightly increased. The toggle abilities 0.5 seconds to 0.75 seconds, channel abilities is 0.3 seconds to 0.75 seconds. Now, I did not understand this in the past, but I think this is how it works. All right, this one-hand fire staff has a channel time of 0, 0.6, and 1.2. Now, my main strategy back then was just to press E multiple times so that I get to cancel, and it is basically like a quick cast, right? So if I tap and tap and tap, since the minimum duration now is 0.75 seconds, even if I mash my button multiple times, it is going to cast at that 0.6 seconds, right? So it starts at 0. The minimum duration is 0.75. So even if you mash your buttons multiple times, 0.75 is going to be the minimum duration. So you cannot really use multiple button presses of the same time to quick cast your ability. Now you can though, what you can do is press E and move. If you can press E and move, it's not pressing the same button twice to cancel the ability or to cancel the channel. It's pressing the ability and then moving, which also cancels your channeling skill. Now that can be a way to quick cast your abilities now. It's different, but at the same time, it's just another thing to consider. Again, I am going to press my E button multiple times here, and as fast as I can, there you go. It casts up to 0.75 seconds, and sometimes that's more than enough for your enemy to react. Now, if you want to do a quick cast, like a zero cast, now you go E and move. If you E and move, you're going to quick cast that literally 0 seconds, or however fast you can move after clicking your E. So its toggle abilities is the toggle abilities. One that comes to mind is the Royal Sandals. Royal Sandals, sometimes when you just press F multiple times, it's pretty much going to cancel your own F, and you're going to be F'd. Another is the Sandals of Purity. I used to just cancel that all the time. Now with this change right here, very insignificant to a lot of players, but actually is very, very good change. Now, 0.75 before you can cancel using the same button. Another is the Nightfall Abbey. The Blessing of Compassion has outshined other available blessings inside that Nightfall Abbey, which is true. To promote other blessing, its effectiveness has been slightly reduced. The Blessing of Compassion, if you don't know, is the red buff. 1 stack heal from 14 to 10%. 1 stack heal over time is now 7% to 5%. That's also unchanged though. The scaling per stack, it still gives you 1% of the instant heal every additional buff that you have. But the heal over time, it only gives you 0.25 instead of 0.5. So actually a very, very big change. In the mist right now, I don't really prefer any buffs. As long as I have an active buff, I'm okay with it. That is me with the Blight Staff though. But it's interesting. This is a very good buff. Very good patch overall. This is the biggest reason why SBI is never ever going to be balanced. But it is what it is. If you're watching on YouTube, let me know what you feel about the balancing in the patch number 11 into the mist. Beyond the Veil. It's not into the mist. It's Beyond the Veil.